So good morning, everyone. I want to start this great heart talk in the series um, with some loving thoughts. I love the service in the morning. I love the bells that call in the bodhisattvas that maybe are running a bit late. And those bells reminded me of the bells that we used to ring for Dokusan. Those were amazing bells, and we are going to have them back. So I also love to see you all in Dokusan. Well, not all, but almost. Uh, and to have the time to spend with you guys because today we were not too many, but when when we are more, I won't have that chance to spend as much time because I'm always running late. And I cannot be late for my own talk. I don't want to be late for talk, so I have to concentrate in more in what can I do to help you in your practice. And that's what I'm doing here. Oh, that's what we are doing here. So this morning we were continuing this series of talks, and I said before we are always going slowly, so we are not like taking always the next step, but it's more like going on a spiral, descending together slowly. And maybe it's gonna be maybe there's gonna be one more talk, and if you like this practice, that then we will have to continue in Dokusan together, because this practice is pretty much like working with koans. Um, we are not therapists. We don't claim to be therapists. We don't like to be therapists. And actually, a lot of my students in Spain that did this practice with me and with Roshi were therapists. And they liked to learn this practice because it was something new for them. But really, this practice works mostly for Zen practitioners. And the more you have seen in your true self, the easier this practice becomes. The the more you are able to be in contact with emptiness and feel comfortable with emptiness and rely in emptiness and trust emptiness, the easier this practice becomes. So anyway, last time we started talking about the shadow, um, and I just want to remind you, especially because also we have some new people this morning, that what we refer as a shadow, and it's a Jungian term, is like um, where we grow up as children. We all encounter situations as growing up as children that our brain is not fully developed yet. And there is no way we can deal with those situations, or that we know how to deal with those situations, or that we are supposed to know how to deal with situations. So this is the body of wisdom. That the body that we carry is the body of wisdom. So that's like Master Hakuin's word. This is the body of Buddha, and he's not joking. This is the body of Buddha. That's the body of Buddha. So the body has an internal wisdom. So the wisdom of the body postpones those situations until a later time. So when our brain is then fully developed, and then we can deal with those situations. How those situations manifest in our life? With triggers. With triggers. So triggers are a symptom that there is something deeper in ourselves that wants to be released. and that can be released. Not through therapy, but with practice. And especially the practice of feeling comfortable in your body, the practice of learning how to feel your feelings, whatever those are. And that might take some time, but when you start learning how to feel your feelings, then you start trusting your feelings. Um, so, for example, um, if somebody also, I want to say, because this is the practice that we teach here is a body practice. You know, we give you a koan like mu or who am I? And you know, you are entering the depth of your mind, but not the mind over there. No, the mind in this body, in this body, and in this body there are all of the things that we might have stored through life, through the life up to now, but especially when we were children. That's when, especially, we store more things. And some people might be working with their first koan, who am I or something, and then all this fear comes out. So then, you know, you come to Dokusan, it's like all this fear is coming out. What do I do with it? Then it's like, I tell you, feel it. Just feel it. How does fear feels like? When you learn how to feel fear, it's not bad at all. It's just like, because there had been something that is frozen in our body. And you have the example of animals, right? That they go through a trauma in the mountains or something. They go through a life-threatening experience. What happens to their body? Their body freezes. And what happens to their bodies when they survive the situation? They shake. That's how they release the trauma. That's how they release the fear. And our bodies work the same way. So fear is very important. It's the most important emotion that we can have. And of course, it took me a long time to trust fear, but not really, because I always somehow, you know, being Puerto Rican and Spanish, I always knew I had my feelings. I had the one thing that I had, and it was my feelings. So even fear, you know, the little shaking, I felt like almost like the cells of my body connecting with each other, you know, becoming alive again, releasing the numbness. Uh, so there is a lot of wisdom in the body. Um, and we have been trying to read some stories from our beloved students, really, that help us develop this method at the beginning, at the very start, like many years ago. 20 years ago, oh my God. No, I don't know that much. A lot. And then we have one of my beloved students, our beloved students, wrote his story, and this would illustrate in a very nice way. It's almost like if we were sitting here together with your grandparents, and the fireplace is burning, and we're reading these stories to each other, and it's a very special time. So I wonder if somebody likes to read and would like to read to everyone the story of the nice guy. Okay, loud.
Okay.
Very loud. Here, do you want the microphone? She needs the microphone?
She reads it loud. It's okay.
Loud.
The nice guy. I had been in therapy and meditated regularly during the past 6 years and had definitely seen improvement in my overall mindset. However, certain obstacles and blind spots continued to manifest in my day-to-day life. For example, I still approached the world suspiciously and from a distance. There was always a low level of irritation present in most of my relationships, and my outlook on life was primarily based on fear. My life had not been an easy one. Growing up gay had exposed me to a lot of bigotry and violence. I adopted the persona of nice guy in order to placate any possible aggression towards me. I sought escape in fantasy and drug addiction, and for the next 15 years continued to lead a double life of a pleasant guy in public and a dark, depressed, and secretive guy in private. By the age of 30, I began psychotherapy and started a regular meditation practice, which, though extremely helpful, still seemed to miss something deeper that lay hidden inside me. One of my first realizations while at the Great Heart Retreat was that I had internalized a particular belief about being gay. I was not allowed to have anger. I was to be subservient and obsequious to those around me. Gay meant not quite a man. I had been called sissy and faggot and wimp. These labels did not allow for rage. I accepted them and had therefore been stuffing my anger for most of my life. I simply did not show anger. Sitting on retreat, I began to feel the old irritation and anxiety return. This time, however, I was encouraged to drop the story around it, just allow it to be there. The main thing was to stay in my body without judgment. While staying connected to my heart, what was a slight irritation quickly became anger, and then a deep, profound feeling of rage swept over me. This was something I had been avoiding all my life. The freedom that I experienced in allowing my body to become consumed with this emotion was astounding. As I continued to connect with my heart, the rage transformed into grief. This grief brought to my awareness an image of myself at age 14. It was Halloween and I was dressed up, appropriately enough, as a fairy with lipstick and all. When the other trick-or-treaters started to ridicule me, all of the shame and loneliness that I had experienced at that time came back to me, and I realized that I had no one to protect me or tell me that I was special or validate my gayness at all. While sitting on the meditation cushion, I began to weep. Focusing on this image, I offered myself all of the protection and care that I did not receive at the time. I could feel my heart beginning to open up. This was only the beginning. As I continued to practice the Great Heart Way, I realized that my body has much to teach me. There are secrets hidden inside me, and by staying present with my emotions, there is the real possibility of transformation. I'm so grateful for this profound practice. It has offered me an antidote to spiritual avoidance and helped me to delve deeper into myself.
Now it's Roshi's turn to comment.
Yeah, I think the key thing is just to experience what we're experiencing without judging it. Because what we have is stories, that prevent us from experiencing it. And the stories go something like, I've been meditating for 5 years, 10 years. I shouldn't be feeling this, you know. Or stories about getting caught into, like in the case of the nice guy, man, I wish that I had been strong enough at that time to yell at those guys who were ridiculing me, or whatever the story is. The story just takes us away from what's going on within us. We don't need to fabricate feelings either, because they'll naturally arise particularly when we're meditating, if we allow our mind to settle down and go deeper and empty, or a bottomless pit of feelings, and they come up, and we never have to justify, rationalize our feelings. And like what Roshi said, they won't hurt us either. I mean, they're sensations in the body. not necessarily, a symptom of having a heart attack or a stroke or something like that. It's just feelings that are in the body. And what does fear feel like? What does anger feel like? What does sadness feel like? And we don't know, because usually when these feelings come up, they're uncomfortable. And so then we avoid them by thinking about something else. But if we just stay with it, you know, I could give some examples later, maybe. But that's an important point. It's non-judgmental awareness.
Or now, if you want, you can give more examples.
Well, my famous story, that many of you have heard, is just when I was an oceanographer and we were testing equipment for diving to keep up a body warm. The Navy had a program. They wanted their divers to spend a lot of time in cold water, but they had a thing called the hot wetsuit program. They thought that if they put hot water around the body, that would do the job. But this professor I worked with at the Oceanographic Institution thought that they were losing more heat to their lungs because they would breathe. If you're a scuba diver, they take all of the moisture out of the air so it doesn't condense inside the tank and corrode it. So you're breathing dry, cold air because the air is in contact with the tank, which is in contact with cold water. So we have to moisturize the air and raise the temperature. So moisturize, water evaporates out of your lungs and your throat. You moisturize it, and that cools you down, because you've all probably gotten out of a swimming pool when it's windy, and when the water evaporates, you feel cold. And then you have to bring the temperature up. So we developed this thing that catalyst between the tank and the regulator, the breathing mouthpiece, that moisturized and heated the air that they were breathing. And when we were testing it, actually the Navy was testing it, and I was in the water, one of the subjects, and it was cold because we went into this tank that had deep ocean water circulated through it. And so instead of thinking, man, this is cold, I hate it, how much longer do I have to deal with this? I just had been studying koans at the time, and the famous koan of Master Tozan, where the student said, how do you avoid the extreme of hot and cold? And he said, go to a place where there is no hot and no cold. And he said, the student said, where's that? He said, when you're hot, be hot, and when you're cold, be cold. So I just felt the cold. What was it like to be cold? So I didn't have any stories. I just totally experienced the cold, down to the finest point of resolution I could. I discovered things like if I didn't breathe, I didn't get cold. Because when you breathe, the regulator bubbles come out and they break around your face. Where the bubbles break, that's when you felt cold. If I didn't move, I didn't feel cold at all. When I moved, I could feel the coldness, particularly under my arms. So I just concentrated on it. And finally, somebody knocked on one of the ports of the tank and told me to go up. And the Navy ensign who was running the experiments, we had probes all over our body, measuring different things. He said, what were you doing down there? And I said, nothing. It's kind of true. As I sometimes say, maybe you hear me say it, that I was careful not to say it. I was meditating, and meditation might be co-opted and become classified. Anyway, he said that my body temperature didn't drop. Like the other people couldn't stay in more than 10 15 minutes, but my body, I was down there half an hour and it hadn't dropped to an alarming low value. So, um, and it so happened that after that, I never didn't get cold for the longest times because I'd really experienced it. We were doing some experiments in Monterey Bay, putting instruments on the base of pure pilings, and the water in Northern California is very cold. And whenever somebody had to go down and check them, I always volunteered because I wasn't cold. Everybody else was kind of a bit hesitant. But then, of course, it didn't stay that way because, like anything, so we say you have to keep practicing. If you don't keep practicing, you lose it. That has the same thing with our meditation practice. So that's one example. It wasn't emotion, an emotional thing, but it was a bodily sensation. And maybe Roshi Shinko will tell us the difference between feelings and emotions. And then that's kind of our resistance to feeling feelings.
Yeah, I was in a different place. I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just wondering, when was it that feelings became um, taboo or put down, or people start saying you should not feel like that, or if I'm a good person, I should not feel like this. And feelings don't have anything to do with that. Feelings connect us directly with our Buddha nature. Feelings emanate from our Buddha nature. So the same thing that now there are all those conspiracy theories putting down feelings. It was about the worst conspiracy theory that had been done to a human being. And these conspiracy theories are not new. From the beginning of history, before history, from prehistoric times, conspiracy theories started, and human beings have been kept captive. And what we are seeing now is not new. It just happened long, long time ago. This is just more. So, yeah, it's not just me who says that feelings connect us with our Buddha nature. I already knew that because connected me with the deeper self that I was connected with since I was in childhood. But also after becoming a Zen Roshi and continue post Roshi studies in Vajrayana Buddhism, that's what they say. Feelings emanate from Buddha nature. But what happened when that ability to feel is cut off at a young age? That ability is blocked, but that ability can be opened again because there are channels in the body, channels of feeling. So that ability can be filled and it can be opened, and it can be opened through practice. The same thing that we practice with our koan, we practice with feelings. Where does this feeling come from? How does it feel? How does this feel? And feelings and thoughts are different. Thoughts are to be thought about. Feelings are to be felt. So when we try to think of a feelings, what we are doing actually is blocking the feelings, because feelings are subtle. They are like the rivulets of channels that run through our body. So when we put a thought on them, we block. We block them. But feelings are very important. I mean, like I run into a room full of people and I can tell through my feelings whether it's a safe room for me to be in or not. It's through feelings. I can feel the situation. I can feel the atmosphere in the room. I can feel the energy of the person that I'm interviewing, maybe to become a resident here. If I didn't have ability, then I didn't have anything to go about that I could trust. My feelings were blocked too. I mean, I grew up with a lot of blockages, but then through this practice, I have been able to open those channels again. So I know this practice works, and the testimony of people, but it's not therapy. Right? One of you guys that was working on this practice, um, just guiding, just how to feel fear, all of that, just feel the next thing, feel the next thing. It's like a koan, take the next step, take the next step. It's just like working with a koan. Um, and that in that person, so how this is so different from therapy, came and told me that he had a big throw up of energy. He threw up the blocked energy, like a big throw up, and the release of the throwing of the body throwing out that blocked energy, you know. So it's not always that dramatic, but it almost feels when you clean a blockage, it almost feels like you have been carrying with a bad tooth for a long time, and suddenly you don't have it anymore, and you notice the difference. Um, I don't know. Um, what time is? I don't wanna, like it's already half an hour. I don't know if you have any questions, anything to share. Let's share something. You guys, like it's the sharing time.